Streets and Transportation Committee meeting to order. Roll call. Everyone is here with the exception of Dan Miller. Okay. So you had received the minutes from the February 1st meeting. There were no corrections as they were presented to you, so I need a motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes will stand approved, and I will send a digital copy of those minutes to the secretary in order to have them as part of our meeting correspondence. All right, correspondence. Did anyone receive correspondence? I received none. No. Therefore, there will be no correspondence this morning. Update, Vice Chair. It's been a busy time in between meetings. February 15th, I came to the commissioners meeting where the Jolly Trolley presented their proposal for trolley services for within the city of Rehoboth Beach. Lydia Hastings is in the audience this morning, and I will give her an opportunity to update that as soon as I'm finished with my updates from other meetings. On March the 15th, John Eckenrode and I met with Anthony Aglio and Jeff, I didn't get Jeff's last name, another member of the Del Dot staff prior to the commissioners meeting, simply to discuss previous stuff that we had discussed. And Anthony then presented to the commissioners at their workshop that day Del Dot's plans to work on a lined bike path that will come off of Grove and cross the Canal Bridge to Church Street. There will be a curb cut. We have discussed this in the past. There will be a curb cut into the ending of the Grove, well, the ending or the beginning of the Grove Park path as it meets Rehoboth Avenue, there by the behind the Historical Society. Del Dot will be making a curb cut in there, the width of the path, so that bicycles will be able to access and leave the Grove Park path by that curb cut. The path will be painted, signed. It will not have vertical delineators. This work is expected to be completed prior to Memorial Day weekend. John, did you have anything else that you can remember from that meeting?
You covered it.
It was explained to the commissioners. There were essentially no questions, and so I'm sure you've seen the sign on Rehoboth Avenue that says work will begin on Monday. So that may be the work that we're talking about. On March 25th was the FOIA meeting. Thank you for those who attended, and everyone will be given a copy of that in case they were not there. On March 26th, I met with Paul, Sharon, Kevin, and Chris to both get updates for them and to update them on upcoming discussions for this committee. What happened during that, what came up during that meeting is after discussing the idea that one-way streets have been an issue and have been talked about for years, their request was that they felt like that was an issue that perhaps needed professional guidance. And so what they would prefer is for us to postpone discussion of one-way streets until the city has an opportunity to get a professional opinion on all those routes. But our considerations and the things that we have recommended and possibilities and all that will be part of that proposal. The other thing is what they're also looking at with that is the whole issue of delivery trucks. In other words, it's one big thing. Parking, delivery trucks, one-way streets, bicycle path it needs to be looked at as a comprehensive thing, so we will not discuss that until a future date.
I was driving through Rehoboth at 3:30 in the afternoon yesterday. It was terrible. There were trucks everywhere. That late in the day.
Well, we've become a year-round city, and that's probably the best way to look at it, is we're no longer just summer. We discussed painting that we had requested, and I informed Kevin Williams that crosswalks, especially on Rehoboth Avenue, were our highest priority following the discussion of our past meeting. I also gave all of the city personnel that were at that meeting a copy of our request for the past year and the way we prioritize things, so they have that in hand. There's no guarantees of what can be done or will be done right now based on city personnel time in order to get things accomplished, but that message has been transferred.
Kathy, on that issue, can I ask you for clarification? Now that they have been reintroduced to the list, is there or was there an actual next step relevant to what's on that document?
No.
Okay. That's sufficient.
My understanding from that meeting is they are well aware of what we have recommended to be done, and it is in a queue that has no timeline, if that answers that question.
It does for the interim. Okay. Thank you.
Now, the flip side is merge design is back in the budget. They will be coming with a proposal to coordinate the signage within the city. And the good part about that, the bad part about that is nothing will be done this summer. But the good part about it is there will be a coordinated plan for signage. So the signage comments and our recommendations will be part of the merge design project. The last thing I forgot to add it in order was I did meet with the Boardwalk Committee following our discussion of North Boardwalk and how we would suggest having a safe bicycle lane come on and off the north end of the boardwalk. The Boardwalk Committee is going to look at our suggestions. There were some questions about how that we would lose parking on the north end of that sidewalk because there physically is not enough space for a car to park and another car to come behind them. So we will re-look at the north end of the boardwalk for our May meeting. I will discuss that with upcoming agendas. Any questions for the chair? That's my update since we met. The last thing that I did is trash cans. We had mentioned having trash cans that can be emptied by the mechanical part of the trash trucks. Mr. Williams is aware of that. We're a public information thing. Chris Johnson and I have spoken about that a little bit, and there will be no trash cans required for residents of the city, but on the other hand, we're looking at a public education or a proposal where at least make people aware that if you buy cans of a certain type, the mechanical part of the dump truck will be able to empty them, and which would save wear and tear on the people who help us by emptying our trash cans. What I would like to do then is, since Lydia Hastings is here from the Jolly Trolley, is for her to give us the update on where our Jolly Trolley suggestion is and on the, Thank you, Lydia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lydia Hastings. I'm the operations manager of the Jolly Trolley and Transit U Incorporated. As most of you may have heard, we have proposed a formal proposal to the city of Rehoboth Beach for a intra-city shuttle. We proposed this in, I think, early December. Initially, we got some great responses, positive feedback. The discussion pursued, and we found that we still need to really solidify those stop locations and also solidify the route itself. We have, I think, a really close plan of our proposed route. However, we still think there's some discussion that needs to go on. So for now, we are postponing that service for this summer with plans to continue the conversation throughout the summer, throughout the fall, into the winter, and then hopefully get it going by next spring. Stop locations is definitely something we're looking at, as well as the financial aspect as well.
And just as a committee, when Lydia and I discussed her being able to come to this meeting and update you, I assured her that she asked if this committee would look at the stops and help them with some information. And what Lydia and I discussed, was that during the summer, we need to take a look at where people are, where they park, where the stops might be. So therefore, we will not discuss the Jolly Trolley stops or any of this as part of an agenda item until September. So for you to be aware, it's still on the calendar, but not until September. And one of your homework assignments as a committee.
Why do we want to wait till September? Because
nothing can be done this summer as far as the Jolly Trolley is concerned. It will have to come back as a proposal to the commissioners in the fall, and then therefore a possibility in the summer of 2020. So anyhow, as Lydia and I talked, it might be helpful to notice where people park, where might be good stops for them to stop, so that when we do discuss it, we actually have the summer information to deal with instead of dealing with it right now.
Kind of like an informal study throughout the summer. Obviously we have our fixed route from Rehoboth to Dewey Beach. That'll still be going on. I'll be periodically at different times of the day, different periods of the week, going through our shuttle route, kind of just getting an idea of how people flow. If there is a location that we should be looking at as a stop location potentially, on the sheet that we have passed out, the stars are our pretty solid proposed stop locations. Now
there's an extra copy right here on the chair. Okay.
I had something to say about
that'd be perfect.
When it's possible.
Hold on just a minute. Thank you so much.
And the circles are our potential stop locations. However, they're not concrete. Again, we want to work with the Streets and Transportation Committee. We want to work with the Parking Committee, the businesses in the area, kind of get this conversation going and really solidify this proposal.
Thank you, Lydia. Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, what I would like to also do with the audience this morning, for people who've taken the time to come, if you have a comment about this topic, because we're going to move on, if it's all right with the committee, we're going to change the agenda enough just to allow public comment with people that are here about a specific topic. Yes, sir. Could you come up?
Sure. Terry Langer, I own Casey's Delights, both in Rehoboth and in Lewis. I would like to know how many of you received a copy of that. Did you read page number 10? Because page number 10 gives figures that show things that I've been saying for the last 3 years now. When I said 3 years ago, everybody told, no, you're crazy, it's wrong. 2 years ago, I came to the city hall and I heard the mayor say, yes, you're right, but nothing has happened in the meantime. I'm extremely happy to hear that we are working on a bike path between the park and ride parking and downtown. That was definitely one of the things I was asking for. I'm very happy to hear we're talking about a jitney, because again, this is one of the things I suggested. We don't have time to wait and organize things. Because on this page number 10, we have an indication of the number of visitors in the visitor center for each fall since 2014. Cut a long story short. And this is a very strong indication of how many people come and visit us for the first time. The number of visitors has been divided by 3. The number of newcomers in Rehoboth Beach now is only 1/3 of what it used to be. So everybody's talking about traffic and parking, but nobody is realizing that, hey, traffic and parking are the reward for success. And they are actually declining now. I have been parking on the permit since ever, and since the summer 2016, every single month, I have been seeing that I could park closer to my business. All these things indicate that there is a very strong decline in traffic and an even stronger decline in quality traffic. Go and ask the business owners what happened this summer. I heard a major name, but major one, extremely close to the boardwalk. I heard minus 25% for the last summer versus the summer before. So, and I own exactly the same business with everything. It's the same thing in two separate locations. One location is on a steady trend, which is minus 10, minus 15% versus the year before. The other one is going plus 35. So
Can we help you? What would
yeah,
you
like? So here is what I think is vital. So I think we cannot afford one more summer with people who do not want to come. On the longer term, what is vital, because this is what is being done everywhere, and we compete against other tourism places. Basically, the whole of Rehoboth Beach downtown has to be pedestrian. Forget about the parking. Parking nearby, park and ride. And from the park and ride, organize a noria of shuttles. Not one every 30 minutes, no, one every 5 minutes. And do not drive into Rehoboth anymore, except if you're a resident. Use the shuttle.
Where's your business?
Sorry?
Where is your business?
My business is Ocean Block, 70 Rehoboth Avenue.
John, Casey's Delights, the little place that's right on the corner there by Scandinavian Occasion, just kind of right around the corner from there.
Oh.
Yes. And Terry, could I have your last name again?
Sure, Langer, L-A-N-G-E-R.
Thank you so very much.
So what I'm saying, on the longer term, people do not want to come because they think there is traffic, they think parking is difficult, and they think, and those who could come just walking do not come anymore downtown. I have so many clients who come to my lowest location because they do not want to come downtown. Here is my analysis. We do everything that is possible to make life easy for those who come with the coolers. And those who come with the coolers are not those that we need. And there are those that actually throw away, that are actually a repellent to those who might do this place quaint and thriving again. This is why I suggest that heavily, and there is a real emergency, downtown pedestrian, noria of shuttles and bikes from any parking that we can organize around this area. The park and ride parking is empty for now because the shuttle is not convenient. And I hear we're talking about solid stop. I was really thinking about, hey, just like any shuttle from a hotel or a resort, wave your hand, and can you stop? And that's it. Because they would be the only ones driving, or nearly so. And in the meantime, there is a real emergency for making the sidewalks nice and acceptable. I know that's not the topic today, but when are we going to have the right to use a reasonable portion of the sidewalks so to make them attractive for those we want?
Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other public comment about the Jolly Trolley topic? Okay, then we're going on to old business.
Lydia, sit down.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lydia, you're good. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Lydia, for coming. We will be in touch. Okay, then we will move on to old business, discuss the recommendation of a stop sign on the corner of Oak and Gerar. It's interesting because Lydia's map that she gave us shows exactly where we're talking about the intersection of Oak and Gerar, and you can see on there how the street twists at that intersection. So I would like to go back. The suggestion had been made that we recommend a stop sign at that corner. Chief Banks, did you have an opportunity to look at that, or did you have any comment about that particular intersection this morning?
I have looked at it. I don't have any real comments to add, except the data will not show that there's any accidents or anything over there or a speeding issue. It's like so many other places, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, and in busy summertime with people jogging, bicycling, walking, 25 may be too fast, but again, we can't cite them they're over that. So the speed data is not going to sit there and show that there's heavy speeding in that area because it is kind of windy and people are slowing. That's not to say it's not too, that 25 is not too fast for the area in that. So I did myself last year, a year before, the city manager and I went around to these individuals and spoke to them about it and went over the same thing. And at that time it was recommended no stop sign. That was just informally talking with the city manager. It definitely, like in many places around the town, that area could maybe be relined, stop lines and all that, because I think as you go past that area, coming up to Second, there's stop signs farther down, and some people kind of scoot through that area. So I think, again, some painting and all. So I guess that's the only comments I have right now, looking for your kind of feedback in which direction you want to go.
Is it slow?
I think there's a sign about bicycles, and it may say slow or something, but I think it just be something about your surroundings. Yes.
And I think according
and
to...
it shows about slow down because of the curve in the roadway. It's what the sign has.
And I think that was the concern as to why it was brought to this committee, is because there are two 90-degree angles, and you cannot see what's around that turn until you make the turn. And the suggestion was simply, this may sound simplistic, but what harm would a stop sign do? Because it would at least make someone stop before they turned the next 90-degree turn. Any feedback from the committee then? Do we still want to recommend this stop sign? What's your feeling?
My feeling is that the terrain slows you down naturally. It's not a straight line. That's, I'm not against the stop sign, but my feeling is that intersection and that path of road, it's hard to go fast because you can't see where you're going.
I think that the reason it was brought to our attention was that drivers do not stay on their side of the road when they make the 90-degree turns. But I'm only...
Oh, well, that's new information.
When I go through that intersection, I bike around Gerar, and I don't have any trouble at that intersection. I mean, there's not a lot of traffic from Gerar onto Oaks, and you want to keep the flow of traffic going, so I really don't see a need for a stop sign there.
Okay. Is that so? What do I hear from you as I take this back to both the person who suggested it and the city?
I wouldn't object to the stop sign, but I didn't see the need for it either.
Okay. So
I agree.
do I have a consensus then that from observation, we did not see a need for an additional sign at that intersection? Okay.
Good job.
Now, as we did for the first thing, and Walter, did you want to speak to that at all? Or okay.
You just did. I said, good job.
Okay.
You said everything you
Okay.
said.
Okay. Then our next order of business. Now, this agenda was turned in, all right, I'm moving my pages. This agenda was turned in, and the focus being on a pedestrian area. And then what I instead of us suggesting a pedestrian area by which streets, how it will work, all of that, what I would simply like to hear from you today is that if you considered a pedestrian area, what would that pedestrian area look like? And if we thought about downtown, the business district, what would it look like? I'll give you an example of what sort of, rather than define spaces, when the city does its study of traffic and deliveries and some of that, this may become part of the discussion. But right now, for instance, there's not even a picnic table on Rehoboth Avenue anywhere in the vicinity of the boardwalk, so that a person can even pick up a lunch or pick up something somewhere and actually go sit where there's a place for them to put it. If you think of plazas in Europe, if you think of places that make it welcoming for the public to get something to eat, come down and sit downtown, actually shop at places where that right now our benches are basically what we have. So my intent for today is, if there could be a pedestrian area, in a way where it would be, or where would you even perceive it, or what would it have that you would like it to look like?
The horseshoe around the bandstand has to be the beginning of a movement toward making downtown more of a pedestrian zone. Terry couldn't have said it any better. He has a much broader perspective than those of us here. He's only been here a very short period of time. He's invested a considerable amount of money for someone that's a new player. It's remarkable what he's done. Everything he's saying is correct. The shuttle service has to exist. The shuttle lots have to be identified. We have to remove this perception that there's no place to park down here. Traffic's terrible, there's no place to park, over and over and over again. So all the people from outside the city don't want to come here. And it's shifted from, I only come during the off season, to I don't even want to go there anymore because they don't want me in there. I see that. So things like banners and other things that are kind of sprinkles on the icing on the cake aren't going to make any difference. We've got to really make some serious changes to develop a more pedestrian-friendly. Bicycles spend just as much money, if not more, because we're not carrying a cooler. We got a water bottle. And if we're really aggressive, we got a Powerade and a water bottle, and that's as far as it goes. So now we've got an opportunity to discuss it and start to move forward. The shuttle, the lots, identify the lots, get the shuttle moving in and out. And we've heard a lot about how the employees occupy so many parking spaces. And yet, in many countries around the world, the public transportation is focused on getting the employees to their place of business so that the customer that's going to spend money has a place to get access. We're denying a lot of paying customers access to our businesses because employees are taking up all the prime parking spaces. There's no limit on how long you can park. How long in advance can you park for the Sea-Witch Parade? Is there a limit? Can you stake out a place?
That's the off-season, that's different, that's different. We
there's-
have to look at high season primarily. I
There's
think,
no
what's
limit
gonna
on
help
how
them.
long you can park in a space off-season.
Oh,
that's
that's
not
correct. There is no city ordinance that says you have to move your car from any place in town during the
And that's when
off-season.
people come. People come in the off-season. We're talking about how do we get people in the high season. So
But
I think we want to
it's
focus on.
it's become a year-round city. And it used to be completely dead in January and February. And now, this past weekend, St. Patrick's Day, there's more and more activity here. So I don't think we can look at it seasonally. I think we have to look at it more long-term, year-round, because that's where we're going.
So what are you suggesting, David? What I have is the horseshoe path around the bandstand is a logical first place.
Then we should develop other locations that make sense at the end of Baltimore, at the end of Wilmington, places where it's difficult to turn your car around, places where there have to be more spots that we can identify that are logical and pro-business, pro-consumer.
Well, we are a pedestrian town. We have to think about, we've got the boardwalk. So that's a huge pedestrian area. And I'm really concerned about it because when you see other cities that have gone to pedestrian malls, a lot of times they're a bust. They hurt businesses. So I would be very, very careful about doing that. I think businesses should be worried, and you lose a lot of parking. So I think the only feasible place in Rehoboth here would be maybe that first horseshoe. That's the only one I consider, if you could arrange like the buses and things that use that horseshoe for stopping. But I think like the perception you're talking about for businesses, like here they want the city to fix this and do all these different things. I think we need some advertising. I would like to see Main Street or some of the businesses run ads and say early morning specials, you know, free parking in the morning, come early, or the city take out a big ad and say we've got 3,000 parking spaces or whatever the number is, to help override this misperception that we don't have parking. Because that's what people tell me. It's a perception problem, not a problem in reality. So to me, how you correct that is through PR. And I wish Terry had stayed here to sort of talk about if the businesses would organize and do advertising or something to promote the fact parking is not as bad as you think. And I would like to see an effort like that, then all the money that is expended, like in doing a shuttle or redesigning things, or those are awfully expensive options, while I think, you know, doing some advertising or PR work isn't as expensive, something that's far more readily done.
I think Americans are different from what you're talking about, because in European towns, walking and biking are just, that's the way you get around. I was in one town and they said, I had to go to this program, and they said, oh, it's just around the corner. Well, it was about 2 miles, which was all right, but you know, that's what they're used to. There's no parking problem if you don't mind walking a little way in Rehoboth. Just Americans want to be there right where the store is. They don't want to walk any other place.
Or one thing I've thought of to help with that, that people, yeah, they say everybody wants to park within 2 blocks of their destination. So, but even when there can be parking maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. I wonder if we had better walkways to promote walking. Like if we had a nice walkway from Henlopen and Columbia, coming around Gerar Lake and over the bridge. Like there's no sidewalk there. That's a little awkward. And I think if we could some way promote people coming from the Pines in the north area to walk rather than bring their cars. And I wonder how many people from Henlopen drive over to Rehoboth Avenue, you know?
So back to the, try to keep us on topic, because this is only a very initial discussion of this.
Right. I have one other point. That is that when that horseshoe was developed, that's where they put the parking for the trucks. There's 2 parking areas right there. And we're going to shut that off, then we're going to have more trucks.
Right. I mean, they're not in the way usually. I mean, that's the fortunate thing.
That's because they can pull off there.
Thank goodness.
I've told truck drivers, move your truck up there. That's what it was for.
Okay.
But I'd just really be concerned about blocking off existing streets. Because I think Cape May, I remember being there years ago, and it was a real lively downtown. I went this past year. They bricked it in, and it was kind of dead, you know? I just sort of, it just wasn't as inviting. I think it kind of backfired for them. I've heard.
Every place I've been where it's gone pedestrian, it's improved the business. It's the same objection that we had to killing restaurants by stopping smoking in restaurants. And what happened?
It could smoke.
Business improved.
Yeah,
Their businesses improved.
sure it did.
Because now more people would go. So if we develop this shuttle system, we become more pedestrian friendly by default.
Okay.
If people only want to walk 2 blocks, fine. That's going to be the longest term, hardest thing to change, particularly in this part of the world. So, okay, they're not going to walk, but if they get on a shuttle, they're going to get there faster, stress-free, as opposed to circling the avenue
Okay.
and making hard to make U-turns, et cetera.
I think what you're
So-
saying, in European countries, they have better public transportation. So I
It's
like
all, it's all part of where the world is going, and the world is getting smaller every day. So where Terry's come from, he came here for a reason. It wasn't because it was great where he was.
So is this a topic? I haven't heard from a couple of you. Dennis, you have a business downtown. What do you see?
The same business has been slower the last few years. I think it is because of the perception of parking, but
How about your out-of-town place?
we do 4 times better on the highway than we do here, simply because of the difference in parking.
Yeah.
You know, you can
What
pull
are your
right.
businesses?
Shoe stores. Shoe stores.
The comfort.
Comfort. Okay, you do the comfort. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
I don't see the need for the pedestrian thing so much. I believe we are pedestrian oriented, or tried to be. We should make it safer, but it do for bicycles. I think we have no access to downtown, and that's where we can make a big differences.
When you had your meeting with
Bicycle.
Anthony, you talked about numbers on the trails from 2017. What were the numbers like for 2018?
I don't think they published them yet. Yeah.
I haven't been given that update.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the difference was. It had to be up.
I don't know. I can only tell you, and I did not do this with my update because it doesn't have anything to do with this in a way. But I biked Gordon's Pond Trail a week ago Saturday. It was beautiful. I passed 40 bicycles between the time I left my house and got to Gordon's Pond Overlook. There were 10 bicycles parked at the Overlook. There were 20 bicycles parked under the pavilion having lunch. There were 8 people looking at the map in Gordon's Pond Park, and I sent all that information to my DENREC contacts because I answered questions.
So this was a sunny Saturday.
This was a sunny Saturday, but we're not even in season yet.
Right.
We don't even have the visitors here yet who are bringing their bicycles on the back of their cars and biking. So as to your comment, I cannot imagine that anything is going to be different with bicyclists except they will increase.
It's going to keep going
And
up.
there's a potential that they can increase exponentially, actually, because as there's a bicycle beer trail, there's a bicycle visit the Cape May Ferry trail. These are all published right now. So everybody who can tap into the trails is tapping into the trails to promote their own interests.
We want them right here where the star is.
I mean, you know that.
But all those people you passed, how many do you think actually came to downtown Rehoboth? I'd say 0.
And I think
Because there's really nothing here to draw on.
There's
But-
nothing down there at the park that says Rehoboth, shops
what I
this
mean.
way.
There's
And it says 3.5 miles to what?
there's no, there
Okay.
actually, and you're right, and that's one of the things we have also been working toward is more communication, but DENREC's in charge of that, and we can't put anything out. We can't physically put a PR.
Well, they could at least say downtown Rehoboth, or Rehoboth business shops, restaurants, right?
But I think no PR is out there. But back to let's stay back on track. What I'm hearing from you is a couple of things. One, if we can provide safe sidewalks and safe bicycle paths, that may do as much good as trying to set up a pedestrian area. Two, there's a lot more complicated things when you set up a pedestrian area because you do have the parking for loading zones, you have the businesses that are involved. Maybe this is something that needs to go back to the city, so when they do a study of one-way streets or the whole thing with the trucks, that can be part of the discussion with that as even a potential.
Sounds good.
So let's then, we'll kind of go from there unless somebody else has something they want to add.
One other comment, you were talking about not having picnic benches, and that's true. But we do have those benches all around the place. I think I've always enjoyed those.
And they're adequate. See, I don't think we have more space on the Rehoboth Avenue sidewalks or the boardwalk to put more things. We don't have room for benches. Those sidewalks and boardwalks are packed. I wonder, in the high season, how do we pack more people on Rehoboth Avenue sidewalks, on the boardwalk, and on the beach? See, we're packed as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And my thought for businesses, our best bet is always to extend the season, not try to cram more people in here in high season. We need people midweek. And so I would like a little feedback from people who have businesses. What do you think about the idea of businesses going together and advertising? Like
that would come through Main Street at this
It's either
point.
got to be the Chamber or Main Street.
The Chamber and Main Street are the two people, and I can feed back to them our comments today, and we can go from there.
Yeah, even I see individuals advertising saying, open at 8 a.m., beat the meters, things like that in individual ads.
I think midweek specials. Like I try to tell my friends who live out of town, come on down in the middle of the week. Parking's not a problem. They avoid it. Say, no, come, it's fine. So I think if businesses or that we had more communication saying, hey, things are fine midweek, come.
Okay, and I'm not trying to cut you off, Donna. We good then? I'll feed back to Chamber and Main Street.
Great.
Our comments, and we'll go from there. Any other discussion on that topic?
The only thing for me, Kathy, and I think you've probably already hit it on the head, is when you talked earlier about in your meeting, I think, with the city manager, and I don't know if the mayor was there or not.
Yes.
But you talked about professional guidance.
Yes.
And I hear that term. And I also hear the term about a traffic study. And I think it would be very fruitful for this group prior to our next meeting if you were able to get a better scope of exactly what professional guidance, you've already got merge here as one spoke in the wheel, so to speak, but what are the other pieces that the city is considering for professional guidance? Because if it were to include some perspective on what we're trying to discuss, which is pedestrians, that might tell us a lot.
And in keeping with that, I'd like to see what is the effect of the different parking changes that they put into effect, that they just voted in with the increased rates and limits in the first blocks of Rehoboth Avenue. I'd like to see how much that does to move things around, because I think the idea was those people going to the beach, get them off Rehoboth Avenue, have them park on the other side streets, because they're going to be there all day, and then free up the core areas for more turnover. So I'd like to see if those are effective.
So let me just clarify. I want to come back, Tony, to you first, and then Donna, I'll come to you. Do we Are you suggesting, Tony, that we be a little bit more specific on what information we need? Or that the city may want to look into?
Both.
Okay.
Because, and I'll be happy to do some outreach as well.
Okay.
Because it is shaping up to me that what are the pieces of professional guidance that we're going to be looking for? Because if we, the city, at some point actually get the benefit of a planner,
Okay.
that's a different situation to me. It's a professional and knowledgeable perspective that I think would help, because we all have anecdotal information and our own personal experiences, etc. But once you bring in professional assistance, you've got that potential validation.
So what I'm also hearing to be considered that we have discussed as a committee is pedestrians, bicycles, delivery trucks, one-way streets, walking places for pedestrians.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that all would become suggested areas that would all be looked at.
All I'm saying, Kathy, is I think we need to find out the scope of what's going to be looked at.
Okay.
And when.
Okay.
Because I'm very sensitive to comments that we get that we're not moving fast enough. You know, that we've got a couple of things we're not launching in the season of 2019. So now you're looking at 2020. So the timing and all of that is, to me, is very important.
Just in the Coast Press just this week, there's an article that says officials are considering a traffic study to help decide on a possible garage and where to put it. Kuhn suggested it may be unnecessary, the traffic study. So I was very confused that we're talking about.
Did he suggest, I'm only clarifying, did he suggest the traffic study is unnecessary?
Yes, he said, I don't know that a traffic study would tell us anything more than the fact we need more parking. I think everybody knows that.
Okay. Well, that's beside the point.
Well,
I understand where you're coming from, but
yeah. Because a traffic study also would potentially have impact on what we're talking about the one-way streets.
Right.
And how do you manage the traffic with the streets that we have in town? I mean, we have what we have.
Yeah.
So are there ways to improve the flow and the traffic management? And then on a parallel track, are there other big projects that will or will not help us in the long run?
A more comprehensive assessment,
Yes.
not just do it all piecemeal.
Yes.
not just a parking garage. If I'm hearing you correctly, or what I think I'm hearing, is rather than just, if the city would hire someone to look into a traffic study or for a parking garage, why not have a planner look at the whole picture rather than simply focus on one piece, which may be a garage, having when there's too many other pieces to the puzzle?
Well, and I think it's important for us to understand what is the vision and how long does it take in someone's estimation of, to get these things accomplished. Because if we knew more of that, then we could determine if there are, just some very straightforward tweaks that we could work on while the broader situation is being addressed. And I'll be happy to go with or help to articulate what I'm trying to get at, because when we first started the discussion, the thing I write down is, for our committee, we're going to have to articulate the goal. If it really is for pedestrians, let's say we carved out a space for us on pedestrian. Well, what really is our goal? We have to be able to articulate it, not just say, we think we need to do this, we think we need to do that. Well, but what's our goal? It's kind of like, there's something right here on the back of the Jolly Trolley that I think is interesting. And it's in the big paragraph just before the bottom of the page. And about 4 lines down, it says, one of the goals here is for residents to park their vehicles once during the week and travel with our shuttle and on foot. I think that's a very, very worthy thing to be doing. However, the next underlined sentence, to me, this will reduce traffic and open up more parking spaces. I'm not so sure those two things are aligned. Okay. Or what I would like to hear is more discussion of exactly how will it open up more parking spaces if indeed many of these vehicles are parked in people's driveways. And just, just to drill down more and align, what is the goal here? What's it really going to accomplish?
Well, all right, I'm gonna move us on unless there's something critical, because this is what I would like to do. At this point, what I would like to do is to feed back to the Chamber and Main Street that positive PR is needed. If they want people to come down, give people a reason to come downtown and assure them that there's a place for them to park, and this is your benefit. The second part of the equation.
Do you think we should ask Carol to come over here from the Chamber?
I think as long as she is made aware that this is part of our discussion, hearing ours, that's her job. To work with the Chamber on stuff like that. So I feel like if she has a question,
and she goes to most of the city meetings,
if she wants to come and talk to us to find out more about this, she's always welcome to come. The second thing, though, that I'm going to do is, I follow up with city personnel after each of our meetings. I will make them aware that we are concerned that there be a big picture here. And where can we be part of that big picture? And are there specific things we can look at? And unless there's something else with that topic, I'd like to move.
Well, I just want to make a comment that's related to this. People are worried about business and that. We have to think. We've got 3 new hotels, big hotels coming to town. One on Baltimore Avenue. There's one at the corner of Rehoboth and the Boardwalk. And there's a proposal down there on State Street. So and they're going to provide their own parking. So they bring captive people who be more like pedestrians. The other thing is we've got 3 new restaurants. Here we've got Agave talking about putting in a huge restaurant. We've got a new person taking over Jake's old place. That's a big spot. And then we have Nola.
Nalu. I had it backwards.
Nalu coming in and on the first block of Rehoboth Avenue. So there's progress. There's things happening. Like those are business people. They're betting on Rehoboth, and that I think part of the retail businesses, it's not just unique to Rehoboth. I think there's a whole restructuring going on in retail throughout the country, the world, because of internet shopping. And so I think that retail businesses everywhere is having problems, and it's shifting pattern, and we need expert input on that.
Okay, are we good?
Yes.
Okay, I'm moving on. New business. Okay, David, you are our lead on this. David said he'd sit with his coffee at Starbucks and figure out what to do with Lake Avenue.
Well, and sitting upstairs at the Culture Pearl and sitting in the window. But hey, it's
not a bit, John.
Keith was incredibly generous with his time. And we discussed this at length. And it boiled down to a pretty simple solution is all that's really viable, which is right turn only. And I think we didn't discuss this because it occurred to me this morning. but we could potentially make that a summer only, just like the left turns on Rehoboth Avenue that only pop up from Memorial Day to Labor Day. But the intersection is not friendly. I use Keith's term, it's not friendly. And cars block the crosswalks, and and there are more U-turns, and the curb radius is not friendly to U-turns, which is, as I said in my email to you, is a long drawn out process to even consider changing the profile of a curb. So right turn only, it eliminates a lot of potential problems because the left turns are the ones that require the most sight line. The car has to be in the street the furthest, and they block the pedestrian crosswalk for the longest amount of time while they're trying to turn left.
That's dangerous, right? That's.
So your right turn only is at Lake Street hitting Rehoboth? I just want to try to understand where.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But okay.
And you've got people coming eastbound on Rehoboth Avenue that are turning left on the lake and doing a U-turn to go look for a parking space for dogfish.
And how would the right turn only affect that? That's what I was trying to understand. You just would stop that?
Well, right now, if you want to turn left on Lake to go east on Rehoboth Avenue, you can. And there's a curb cut in the median that is conducive to left turns, but more people are making U-turns there than are going across. You can see the tire marks all over the curb from, particularly the Jolly Trolley has difficulty with the trailer getting around there.
So in addition to a right turn only, would you say no left turn from Rehoboth onto Lake?
I don't think
you would continue to allow that.
I think you're talking about going Lake, coming out of Lake to Rehoboth
I'm going
Avenue.
Southbound.
There, just turn west.
Southwest.
So that's
on
really
Lake.
the only change. Everything else still stays the way it is.
The same thing on Scarborough Christian.
All right, we would have to.
That's another one.
And that's a good point because technically those two intersections sort of match each other, but because we have not put Christian and Rehoboth Avenue on our discussion, we can add that.
It's the same dilemma when you try to turn left in front of Lingo's office. It's another long and blocking the crosswalk, and people don't know whether to go in front of the car or behind the car. It's awkward.
Chief Banks, you've already given David lots of time. Did you have any comments that you would like to make on this discussion?
No additional comment. It's like I said, we're seeing the same problems. It is a problematic intersection for many different reasons, but the quick fix would be
right turn.
Signage.
Yeah.
Just right turn.
And again, and some other topics that we've talked about with crosswalks, painting the lines and things. All would help.
And when you come out of Lake, if you really wanted to go east, all you have to do is go west. Just go right, and then within the block there's a U-turn.
If you can get in that lane. You have to get in that lane though.
Yeah.
If you can only stay in the right lane, you're not going to make that U-turn.
Well, but I think you've got enough room to get over to the left lane to make that U-turn to circle back on Rehoboth Avenue. And for bicyclists too.
There are ways to do it.
Yeah. It's not that inconvenient.
I've been hit twice on Route 1 just trying to get on.
And then Keith just mentioned the crosswalks, which is another area where his suggestion was we prioritize by exact location which one's got the striping worn out the most, which one needs a coat of paint first, and then we move along.
When we discussed, and I'm not questioning that at all, but when we discussed this at our last meeting as to whether to give specifics about exact locations for things, the discussion as a committee was that we not do that. That if you're going to be able to do a crosswalk, then the crosswalks. My communication with the city from that meeting was, if I had to choose which crosswalks get done first, my communication with them was Rehoboth Avenue. Because Rehoboth Avenue crosswalks are the most dangerous right now. Drivers cannot see them at night. You don't even know there's a crosswalk there right now. I almost got hit crossing over to the summer house one night from a parking place because the driver truly had no idea that I was.
There's no signage, there's no strobe lights, and there's no the reflective strip has been worn away. So that would be a perfect example.
I think the next crossing is even worse. I stopped yesterday, but I had trouble seeing that there was somebody there because the parking goes all the way up to that intersection. And so, you know, if somebody's over there, it's kind of hard to tell that. You're right, that needs some more work and it
Okay,
needs
so
some sign.
So,
My conclusion was I defer to the professional. We're enthusiastic amateurs. He's the professional.
Right.
I'm gonna defer to the professional.
but it sounds, what I'm hearing is that, and do I have this as a recommendation from this committee? Because that was an intersection that was brought up to us as a potential problem area, that we will go with Chief Banks' recommendation and recommend back to the city that it be right turn only, and let the city decide whether that will be a seasonal. If Chief feels like a seasonal would help.
Well, I would throw in, I checked that out, and I could even see doing it all year long.
Sure.
Just fill in that area that lets you turn left onto Rehoboth Avenue. Just so people don't get mixed up, so they don't try to do left.
That needs to be reprofiled to be a better U-turn spot.
And they might actually get
Yes,
more
it does.
parking, like if they gave up that left turn area
So
on Rehoboth Avenue, they might even get.
That's expensive work and long-term. That would be at the bottom of the queue. And
Or you can paint it off. I'm afraid if you leave it, or you that left turn, you see that you know, the way the streets, the curbs are, and you've got the arrow. I think people might still try to turn.
Sure.
left. So I could see, actually, put in some flower boxes.
Okay, let me just be sure I'm taking a recommendation that you're giving me. Are I'm hearing you tell me right turn only from Lake onto Rehoboth Avenue.
yes.
Okay. Am I hearing a consensus about when that right turn will happen?
All the time.
Year round? That way.
I would not agree with that consensus, only because if we are thinking of starting this summer, which is a question, Chief Banks, are you there? Let me get the timing in my head first. Are you thinking this summer?
I'm not really thinking of anything yet. No, I'm just-
Okay, well, put your
I'm
thinking cap
teasing.
on.
No, my thinking cap is on. No, it was brought out. Mr. Mann brought it to. You know, obviously we knew there's issues there. You know, there's no accidents, but near misses, and people have talked to us about this before, so it's not something new.
Right.
So we did take a look at it, and you know, it came down to how could we fix it, and if so, what's a quick turnaround? So obviously we brainstorm and be right turns only. And all. Now, as far as when and start, that's again going to go to the city manager, come back to her from this committee to discuss with me, I'm sure, and then bring it up probably at a workshop and how the process goes from there. So the answer to the question, is it going to be this summer? I do not know that, because then it's going to be involved with the city manager at that point. I do not want to speak for her.
Well, if the intention is to try to do something this summer, it would have to get on the May workshop of the commissioners.
Right.
Which is coming very, very shortly. I think it would be a good opportunity to test the water with the commissioners. Therefore, if we were able to try it this summer, just the right turn, simple fix as you described it, we'd have an opportunity to see what happens during the season. Because if we couple it with other things like the intersect, nothing will happen this summer. So if we want an incremental attempt, we'd have to move very, very quickly and not tie it into other things, possibly from a strategic standpoint.
Then I have a question for Chief. I know he's got the spotlight right now. If it could be implemented, would your suggestion be, and I don't know how to do it, to block the ability to make a left turn? In other words, would it be to force someone to make a right turn because you actually made the left turn lane by, be it a barrier, be it a sign, be it
I would say probably no at this time, you know, for a discussion. And like you said, I think it should just, if we went this route, we need some discussion, because how does it affect the residents on that side that usually travels to that has to be looked at and discussed. We spoke about this the other day because once you go up, you have to make the U-turn further up near Dogfish, about going to State Road and all that. So what are their options if you live on that side of town and you're wanting to go downtown?
If you put a barrier,
you cannot come out of 5th Street, and you have to make a right there too.
you negate the ability to make a U-turn there. And a lot of people make U-turns there because that's another parking.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that's okay. That's why I wanted to be sure what we were talking.
Coming down Rehoboth Avenue, they make a U-turn there.
And the Jolly Trolley turns there.
Okay.
Right.
Oh,
So
they do?
that's
They do
why
have to
I
go
would
up
sit
there?
there
Go
and
up to
say
Christian
no.
Street.
It can be looked at and discussed, but for long term or for the short term now.
So right now, what I'm hearing is, are we talking about, even if it were possible for summer season, I'm still going back to, do we make it only summer season, or are we recommending that it go into place and it stays in one place? I'm a person who feels like people learn by doing it. And if you put it up and take it away, it's much more easy. It's much easier to see the signs on Rehoboth Avenue, no left turn, and people still make left turns. So if we would put up a right turn only sign and you simply leave it there all year round, it doesn't hurt anything.
But what
again, I can't sit there and say that because there's been discussion with the residents and how it would flow. Because again, there's near misses, and I say the intersection is problematic. Again, if you go back to raw data, there's no accidents or anything there. There's near misses and things. Yes, just like a traffic circle. So again, you have to say, what are you trying to fix? Yes, there's. It can be unsafe at times, and people are taking when they're making a U-turn. There is crossing both ways. Thankfully, people for the most part are courteous and try to work with it, but it can get very
how about if
congested in that area. So again, the only thing to fix that for a quick fix would be a right turn only again.
For the summer season.
But again, I think it needs to be discussed because we're throwing that out there again, but the people that live, the residents on that side of town, they're circling around. How do they get back? How do they have to go make a right and go up to the circle, then to come back down?
They don't have to go all the way to the circle to turn around and go back. There's a turn lane before the circle. There's a U-turn.
At State Road, yes.
It's State.
Yeah.
They could also learn to go up to 2nd Street and come around that way. So it's not.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying it's just before I throw something out, say year round, or a suggestion from me. I guess I'll put it back on the committee here. I was just asked, hey, is there an issue there? Look, there was no traffic accidents, but yes, it's a problematic intersection.
Wait.
Instead of looking at this summer or long term, to Tony's point, let's just say for this summer to see what happens. Forget making a recommendation long term. Just we want it
for
this
summer,
right.
Right turn only, and
Make it safer now, and then we go from there.
Yeah, the sooner the better, and monitor for the summer whether we continue through.
Well, she's right though. Once you get the people trained to turn right, then that's what you want to do. You don't want to change it in the middle of the year.
Well, the only thing is we all do adapt to the no left turns on Rehoboth Avenue.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do.
I mean, we've learned to adapt to them. So if we would do this right turn only, at least for the summer season, there's going to be people going to make a left turn there.
Sure.
Because they choose to make a left turn there no matter what, just like they do the left turns on Rehoboth Avenue. So if we at least approach it from this is how we think we can make it safer for at least the summer season. So that will be the recommendation that I will take back to the city. Are there any other comments regarding that? Okay, I'm sorry, yes. Thank you, Walter, for reminding me.
Walter Green at 123 Hoboken Avenue. I remind you that when you come across from the Silver Lake Bridge northbound, across Rehoboth Avenue, you go all the way to Lake Gerar and you make a left. That's State Roadway, and Lake Avenue is State Roadway all the way out to the Pearl, and the right-hand turn is innovative. You can't, during the summer months, make a left at Rehoboth Avenue, so where is the first U-turn other than at this street that the vehicles coming out at the Pearl can change lanes and make a U-turn? I believe that was the question. Is that at Fifth Street, probably?
Yes.
That's called road. You're trying to solve the problem. I just remind you of that. I'd like to jump away for a half second. Crosswalks, the city's busy, and the city could ask the state for assistance with latex raised crosswalks that the state's contractor might come in and help the city do that, because then they put down the glass speeds and everything that the city does not regularly do when they do their crosswalks. And it is a state roadway, and maybe the state would just cover the expense. You don't know unless you ask. You also have problems with the armored car that parks at 4th Street and Lake Avenue and in Rehoboth Avenue, and that's an attitudinal item. And they park out in the right lane. It causes traffic problems for people making the U-turn, coming in Rehoboth Avenue eastbound, make a U-turn, and all of a sudden here's an armored car truck sitting there. And that's got to do with Starbucks and the police department and a few people having some discussions with the armored car company, either put it back on Lake Avenue or find a better place. It's very disruptive to traffic. I think you're engaged in some very good discussions. And then the other problem is people, the south side of Rehoboth, trying to get out of town. A lot of people don't want to come out Christian Street because the crossover Christian Street is so very, very bad. So if they come out and it's the way I try to move. I go out and use Robinson Drive sometimes. It's the safest, quickest way to get out of town, or cross country, cover states, and go on the up ramp at Stokely Street. But so many people come out of South Rehoboth, they come across town, come out at the Pearl, and can get out of town safely. And to some degree, you just need not to lock them. Do we transfer the problem to 5th Street that we have because of everything impinging at your traffic site where you're talking about? I don't think it's an easy one.
Street, you have to make a right already today, right? You can't make a left.
Well, but to a person, if you want to get out on eastbound Rehoboth Avenue, you got to go down to make a U-turn, be it the Jolly Trolley or anybody else. You got to go down, and it puts all the traffic that wanting to get back onto eastbound, back onto an intersection that's already very busy. And it's not wrong to look at it. I think you're doing a good job of thinking, and I don't think you're being irrational.
If I may, that is a correct statement when he says about going up to 5th Street. Again, the same issue we have about making U-turns at 4th Street when you go to 5th, just an angle, how that intersection is. You pretty much need to take 2 lanes, wait for both lanes to be freed up before you can come back eastbound.
Because of the radius of the curve.
The radius of the curve. So that's why I said you'd have to almost send them up to the traffic circle at that point, because people you have to wait for 2 lanes of traffic to open up for you to make that turn safely. In most cases, depending on what size vehicle you have and what angle you come into that at. So I just bring to your attention, that's why.
Any other citizen comment? Okay, items on the next agenda. This is what I have right now. North end of the boardwalk. At Royal Farms, this was shared with me. There has been a complaint that if you come out the back of Royal Farms onto Columbia, that we consider no left turn at that intersection. Because if you think of people coming around the circle and coming up Columbia, if you are at the back of Royal Farms and you want to make a left turn, you can't see that traffic coming and that left turn person back there. So the suggestion is for us to look at Columbia and Rehoboth Avenue right there behind the Royal Farms. How can we do the Royal Farms in and out by not putting people in harm's way when you're trying to make a left turn there to come back to the circle? Do you see what I'm saying?
I know, I do it all the time.
Okay. But let's discuss
You have
that
to be
next
very
week.
patient, and you have to look all the way around to the circle.
Well, there.
and look up Columbia.
That was one that
It's
was
not,
brought.
it's not comfortable.
That came back to me as a place for us to take a look at, to see if there's anything we would suggest. That's on our next agenda. And then I would like to look at Christian Street and Rehoboth Avenue, because that is one that was brought up today, and we need to publicize that as such. So I have those 3 items for our next meeting, which has already.
And I'd like to add an item.
Okay.
I'd like to propose that we take out a stop sign to help traffic. If you notice, when you're on 2nd Street, you cross Rehoboth Avenue, and there is a stop sign at Maryland. And then shortly then there's a stop sign immediately at Olive. And I think that stop sign on 2nd Street was put in there when they were doing the work on Lake Avenue, and they left the stop sign. And I don't think we need it. It wasn't there previously. And I think if we could dispense with the stop signs on 2nd Street, and that'll help the flow of traffic across town and along
2nd Street and Baltimore Avenue?
Well, there's no stop at Baltimore. It's on down, it's Maryland.
It's at Maryland.
2nd Street in Maryland is the intersection you want us to look at.
Yeah, take the signs, the stop signs off.
That would be going northbound on
Yes.
2nd.
Yes.
Yeah,
Northbound on 2nd.
Yeah.
And Kathy, on all 3 of these that you've just listed, Columbia, Christian, 2nd, and Maryland, could the chief weigh in of whether or not there's statistics of any accidents prior to coming to the meeting? I mean, we could just, if we just knew that, then he wouldn't have to necessarily be here.
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
Okay. Okay, so I have 4 things then for the agenda. The north end of the boardwalk, we need to re-look at all possibilities for that intersection, or for that whole place. One of the comments, and I'll just tell you this just to give you a thought, the boardwalk committee mentioned when I attended their meeting and spoke with them about all of our thoughts, that what if that little island at the north end of the boardwalk were taken out, and instead make it 1 exit instead of 2 exits out of that part. Just think about these things. But look at the whole thing. Don't just look at moving back and making a bike lane. Look at what can be done for that intersection.
So to remove the triangle where they have some trees.
Yes. Well, I don't even know that there's trees in there.
No, she's talking about between,
The
there's a
little
right and left lane.
The
Yeah.
little teeny triangle that's, if you come around the parking lot next to the Henlopen Hotel.
Just a point of order.
Yeah.
The solution should be discussed at the next
time.
one. It's
Take
not
a
on
look.
our agenda.
Take a look at it for the next time. North end of the boardwalk, Royal Farms exiting from Columbia Avenue. Look at that intersection. Christian Street and Rehoboth Avenue, and 2nd Street in Maryland. Is there anything else to put on the agenda the next time?
I gave you 2 suggestions.
Next time,
Okay.
on that intersection. I'm with you.
Well, no, the street lighting and Surf Avenue.
Do you want to discuss those at the,
Next one or the next one? The problem's not going to go away.
no. Let's just do them let's do them next time.
You're
Okay.
saying lighting?
Tell me what's the
The,
issue?
the level of street lighting at the circle is dramatically reduced compared to the rest of Rehoboth Avenue. And that was one thing that was brought up to me. And the other one was that on the first couple blocks of Surf Avenue, we have a bike lane and no parking. When we get to Oak, and we start to transition over to Henlopen Avenue, there's now parking on the ocean side of Surf Avenue. So you've got car doors opening, you've got people moving strollers, people moving wagons, and bicycles going by. And it's a problem waiting to happen. So there's a dedicated bike lane, then the bike lane goes away. So now I've got to watch out. I don't want to get doored. I've got to watch out for the strollers, the wagons, all the beach stuff that's going to the beach cut right here. That was another area that was of concern.
That's really not a dedicated bike lane.
Yeah, it's just,
That's a
it's
parking
just,
area.
it's just void.
Well,
Right here,
Point of order,
we can,
the discussion about Surf and Oak has to take place next time.
yes,
Right.
yes.
I need a description
Right.
of the problem to know where to look.
Okay.
So you want me to look at Oak and Surf and bike
you're
lane?
going northbound
Northbound
On
on
Surf.
Surf.
North
Just
on
look at
Surf.
northbound
toward
on
the stop
Surf.
sign at Henlopen and Surf.
Yeah,
There's a section in there where the parking is now, you're now able to park.
Okay, but that's been that way, yeah. We're looking at Surf Avenue and the safety of bicycles on Surf Avenue.
And pedestrians.
Yes, but it's safety on Surf Avenue.
especially at Oak Street intersection.
What you can see when you look at it. Safety of pedestrians and bicyclists on Oak Avenue,
Oh, it's
on
right
Surf
there.
Avenue.
So Anna
Okay.
Hazard,
Okay,
so Summer House is right in
David, I
here.
need to go back to what you were telling me.
No, it's right here. It's
Okay,
this one.
gotcha.
Scarborough and Christian come together, and then you gotta,
So this is Christian.
All right, David,
Yeah.
I need your input here. Street lighting, give me the level of street lighting at the circle.
is considered to be low at
And the
the
problem
west
that-
end of Rehoboth Avenue.
And what is the problem that we're looking at then?
It's
The
hard to see.
Okay. For pedestrians, for bicycles? or-
Yes, across
Okay.
the board.
Okay,
I'm conveying professional advice.
that's okay. I gotcha. Street lighting at the circle. Okay, gotcha. So I have 6 things. North end of the boardwalk, Royal Farms exit on Columbia, Christian Street and Rehoboth Avenue, 2nd Street and Maryland stop sign. Safety of pedestrians and bicyclists on Surf Avenue, and street lighting at the circle. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to our May meeting? Our next meeting should be May 3rd, which is the first Friday of the month.
10:30.
Yeah,
10:30.
I think we
10:30.
already had that one.
Yeah, these are all scheduled, but I'm
Yeah.
just confirming that our next meeting date is May 3rd at 10:30.
I have a point of information when you're ready.
Okay?
My point is, do they have all the bicycle racks out yet? Because I noticed on the boardwalk, some places, very skimpy.
No, they're not out yet, because
Okay,
I know
good.
for a fact that they're not on my end.
You know when they're gonna put them up?
I have no idea. No idea. I can ask that question, but,
Soon.
Good.
okay.
We have
Call
to
the
watch
city.
that because they get
Okay.
overcrowded this summer.
Okay, I do not know. Other citizen comment?
Can we go back to agendas?
Okay.
Without discussion, just to be helpful, I don't know who the gentleman is, I might be talking to him. Royal Farm Store is on the Lewis Dairy Market. I'm well aware of the property. The parking lot at the Royal Farm Store at the west end is city property. The whole thing past the sidewalk is city property. So when you go down the side of the building, that whole side of the building where you drive down to when you step off the sidewalk is city property. Because you propose to discuss it, I don't think I'll probably make your next meeting. You just may need to know that. We've had a previous accident, plural, behind where it comes out as a result of streetscape, the way they turned it out. We've had many a vehicle climb up over the curb. Worked with Mr. Sullivan. They put some standards up there to help people get around the corner, but they didn't do it adequately. And yes, it does need some type of left turn. The other item about the lighting of the circle happened a couple years ago when 7-Eleven was open 24 hours a day. And when they changed their lights to down lights, LED lights, and that's what changed the lighting level at the roundabout. And you're correct in your assessment. And then when they came in, the contractor is from Lewis, and he came in and turned on the lights, and we called and thanked them. And that's what raised the level to what it is now. But the light style has changed, and it needs to go to the city to ask the city to have a lighting assessment for the roadway that we got as a bleed effect beforehand from 7-Eleven when they had different lights up there.
Thank you, Walter. Okay, and that gives me a place to check on it. Is there any other business today?
What time? May 3rd?
10:30.
10:30, thank you.
There being no other business, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Kathy. Kathy, thank you for all your
Thank
efforts
you.
between meetings and checking with all those others. You do a lot to make things flow. Thank you.
I think they may be painting the parking lot.
Onward and upward.
By
Baby steps.
I decided I'm gonna steal an
The
insult.
ones that I've seen are very black.
Put it in between here so we can run.
Well, some have been rusting out,
This is
some of them.
Dixie's
you
your
know.
race.
Folks,
I
we
know.
are,
I mean, bike shoes, I mean.
gentlemen, we're being recorded just for
Sorry.
Not by me, though.
Where did Ann go?
She hasn't turned off yet.
Hi there.
Uh-oh, limelight.
Yes, had a nets event.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Great, how are you?
Good.
Oh, we're doing a quick story on this and the Lake Avenue improvements, and I thought,
Okay.
since you guys took the lead on the project, would you have 5 minutes just to speak with me briefly about
Sure.
what we discussed? Great, I'll set up my gear outside. Is that all right, Kathy? I took
Camera
you off
roll.
the hot seat for this time?
It's up, easy, George.
Maddie knows I don't like TV. She's like, please don't, please don't.
So you know her well enough to call her Maddie?
Yeah, anyone can call me Maddie.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Did you?
Just checking.
That was Dan's, I guess.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then I had,
Dan missed the fun meeting?
I did, it's been,
We all had fun at the FOIA meeting.
I'm sorry,
We had fun at the FOIA meeting, it was enjoyable.
it was a interesting discussion.
Always learning.
Are they three down?
Yeah, I will.
Do
Do you have a
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed it.
Do you have a copy of the agenda? Did you need a
Yeah,
copy?
yeah, I got mine.
Tony, we supposed to
Are
do
they
it
going
here?
to do that for you again?
I'll help.
Are they planning to do any more for you? Okay. I shall read her. Thank you for getting me the
You're
material.
welcome. Yeah, I got lucky, Kathy. I got to sit at the Culture Pearl. We got the table.
By the window so you
Yeah, we
could
got
do
a
your
Culture
schedule.
Pearl gift card, so we had to use it. So
Okay, talk to Maddie and she'll give you your 10 seconds of fame on TV.
no, I've had that. Dan rather, I'm familiar with all this stuff.
All right, have all my own stuff here.
Kathy, good job today.
Thank you, Walter.